All right, guys, today we're going to talk about the storytelling part of C.R.O.N.O.S.
And I'll chime in. I'll share my insights about storytelling from the editing side of the business.
If you stay tuned to the end of this video, I'm going to throw in a bonus and talk about the ethics conversation and how stories can be a hack around steering laws, etc., etc. I'm not an attorney, but stay tuned to the end. Just to recap, my acronym C.R.O.N.O.S is be consistent, be real or raw. Authentic would be another word to put there, but the R was better. Be obsessed, be nuanced, be a little outrageous, say emotion-provoking things that realtors would normally not say. And the S is storytelling. Facts tell, stories sell. I would also say stories connect. You start telling a story face-to-face where people aren't in a position to listen to you in the security of their home, not just the physical security, but the emotional security. They're not gonna get pitched by an expert salesperson. When you start telling stories, it humanizes you. It turns you into a real person, not a realtor. When I started learning this YouTube game, it's one of the things that I heard, it resonated, it makes sense. I took it and ran with it. I said, okay, people wanna hear storytelling? No problem, I'll tell stories. True to the lesson, I'm gonna tell you some stories about some stories I've told on the YouTube channel, kind of tell you the effect they've had. So the first one that comes to mind is, I grew up in this place, Eva Beach, Hawaii, Eva, and in the particular suburb, West Lock Fairways.
That's actually where I lived from 8th grade to 12th grade.
In the front of it, there's like the main highway, and then across, there's a pig farm.
So in the morning, sometimes you'd hear the pigs squealing and you know, it stink and whatever.
You know, offloading them from a truck into the slaughterhouse or whatever, and you hear all this squealing. You could smell the pigs, the slaughter, whatever. And so the front of that suburb used to mean,
if you're buying a house, that's something that they should disclose to you.
I told that story. I said, hey, if you're gonna move to this area, make sure you're aware that you might smell this pig farm. Further down in Eva Beach, there's a water treatment facility, like a sewage plant, and you can smell stuff there. So we talk about that. I've had clients connect with us on consults and say, when you told that story or told that story, that's when I knew you were my agent, because that's unusual. You don't hear real estate agents speaking negatively. They speak sort of unbelievably, inauthentically positive about everything. You still have to do this on listing description, so it is what it is, part of our industry. But it's like, this 2-bedroom home boasts a large deck, manifest a patio view, and offer. No one talks like that. And so while we may still have to do that sort of stuff on listing descriptions, I wouldn't do it in a listing video. I wouldn't do it in a YouTube video.
No, this is not a listing video. Yes, this is a real estate video. Where do we strike that balance? This kind of format really lets individual stories shine. It's what changes a house into a home, is the people and the stories. And that's why we focus on that.
Another way to say that is that memories change a house into a home. Telling stories is sharing memories. And get this, your memories and stories don't even have to be specific to the neighborhood or house that you're featuring in your video. You can let something in the video, in the house, spark a memory that is worth sharing with your audience. There's a place for personal stories in real estate. Kind of like this example.
Before I even moved to Hawaii when I was young, I went to Makakilo Summer Farm. Play all day. I feel like all we did was play and eat. Did you guys do Boom Chicka Boom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Boom Chicka Boom a Hawaii thing?
Yeah, it's like...
Derek's telling a story about summer fun. Lauren's jumping in with a question that kind of engages the audience. Even though there's 2 agents in this particular example of a story, you can do this by yourself. Well, actually, you're not by yourself. In fact, don't ever think that you're by yourself when you're in front of the camera. Treat the camera as if it's the person you're sharing a story with, and that will come across. Looking at the lens, not at the screen. That's on the, not at this part of the screen. You don't flip it around like this, and now you're looking at this screen. Even if you don't have a partner on screen like this example right now, you're not alone. So don't treat making YouTube videos like you're alone. Quick tip, find your balance between ambiguity and familiarity. You don't want to share too much information. A lot of us have kids, family members, past social media accounts, whatever the case. So you want to find your balance between ambiguity and familiarity when you're sharing your stories. To find your balance, you have to post, not think, not brainstorm, not plan. You have to post 30 YouTube videos. First question people ask, what video should I make? Lucky for you, we did the legwork. We took our 30 most popular videos, our 30 most effective videos, and we put them together in a free PDF that is in the link in the description. With these 30 videos, we have found success, and that is why we
tell authentic stories. Another thing, jujitsu. So whether I'm wearing like jujitsu stuff or I've spoken about jiu-jitsu. It's a unique, esoteric, sort of niche tribe. Jiu-jitsu people, when I speak jiu-jitsu or even hint at it, they're like, what? I've gotten on consults to other people that train. They want to let me know, like, hey, I do jiu-jitsu too. I talk about being from the mainland, my Florida origins, or California living. I lived in California for a while. Some might not do that because in Hawaii, there's this proud thing. Like, we're born and raised in Hawaii. And I used to be insecure about it as a kid when I first moved to Hawaii and try and justify my Hawaiianness, right? Now it's advantageous. It's one of my superpowers. I can say, yeah, I'm not even originally from here, but when you hear me talk to my uncles and my cousins and like I get that Hawaiian accent. But also when I'm referencing Florida, where I lived for the first decade of my life, and I'm referencing California, where I lived for an adult decade of my life, it connects with people. I'm a unique agent with unique transparency and authenticity that has experience being an outsider. They love it. If you're in another market and you're not from there, don't necessarily see that as a disadvantage. Just play into it. Be who you are, because you can't be anyone else. Everyone else is taken. Telling stories about friends. So the opposite of that is the local effect, how I grew up here, how I have friends here. I could connect you with a friend from that neighborhood, although I didn't grow up in that neighborhood, etc. No, that's it. That is Dane. Hey! Totally unannounced. Because we were in this area, we stopped by.
Oh, Kenji.
In one of our videos, we saw my video guy and I saw a high school friend. He's a real one. He's as real as you can be. There's no faking with him. He is who he is. Kind of old truck driving, surfboard carrying. Nickname is ND. I cannot tell you what that means because it's not. It'll get me canceled. We went and saw him. We told stories of our childhood, of our friendship. And people just, they connect with it, they resonate. And we've gotten this feedback on consults too, of like, wow, when you talk about your friends or your uncles or your family, it really, makes me feel like you are my local friend there. And by extension, I'm talking about these other relationships and these other stories of how that guy used to surf with this person. It almost makes people feel like they have a tribe and a crowd in that community already. It's a different approach to real estate. I talk about our investments. So I have an investment property on a resort here in Hawaii that does several things. That authentically shows people that I'm a skilled investor and real estate professional. A lot of agents don't even own their primary residence, will even less own an investment property. So when I start talking about my cost to furnish, my cost to close, cash on cash return, projected internal rate of return, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When I start talking about these things, I appear as this like, wow, he's an expert. He actually knows his stuff. Finally, refreshing. An agent who walks the walk, talks the talk from experience, and owns investment properties is leading the way, doing things that I want to do in my financial journey. It positions me as a true expert. It also just shows that I'm participating in this community and this economy, and I must have the success and the credibility if I'm purchasing second and third properties. Another way that we've used stories, great point, I didn't even think of this.
The only reason I brought this up to Derek while we're shooting this is because of the hundreds and hundreds of hours that I've spent editing these videos for our YouTube channel. This is why we recommend partnership in this YouTube for real estate business. Because we are business partners, we're invested in each other's growth. This is what differentiates our channel from these other channels. Because we get it, there are other outsourcing, white label video editing services out there, but those options simply don't have the same amount of investment in your success. The insights that come from specified, focused, collaborative efforts in a partnership are priceless. I mean, how does it feel to have a different dentist every 6 months or a new barber every cut? Because I've been dedicated to this YouTube channel, I know Derek's communication style. And more importantly, I know how to package it up here in the editing room. And that's why it
makes sense that the editor would see this, right? But I use stories to get around steering, to get around fair housing implications, etc. Get around, would that be the right way to say it? In whatever case, people want to know if a place is dangerous. The people who don't care that it has higher crime, lower earnings and more poverty and all that stuff, they just won't care. Like, we have clients right now buying in the more impoverished west side of the island, and they're like, that's kind of where we're from on the mainland. Like, those are our people. We're trying to live that way. And that's totally fine because I have family that lives in that community. So I can tell stories about the family. Say, hey, I have an uncle who lives on this side. There's 13 people living in the house. It's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. I can tell stories or make comments. This is maybe more on the outrageous side, but I'll make comments of like, hey, having bars on windows is not my aesthetic choice, but some people may prefer that look and may even choose a different color than black wrought iron bar on their window or whatever. And people know what I'm doing. They're picking up what I'm putting down.
Now let me pick up this camera and show you 2 ways that you can tell a story without saying a single word. B-roll. In our YouTube real estate world, this is anything that isn't the main talking head clip. Supplemental footage that supports the story of the main talking head clip. For example, this is from our most popular video. Here's the main talking head clip. Here's the B-roll. Instead of walking on eggshells to give a factual description of a place, you could use visual storytelling with B-roll shots like this to show when you don't tell. Here's the equation. Show plus tell equals fire YouTube videos. Showing helps telling. Telling helps showing. This can be helpful to you because
we're not really supposed to talk about demographics as real estate professionals. And it would be ill-advised to say this is blue collar, higher poverty, higher crime, lower socioeconomic. Even for me, like that's a little touchy. And I come from that sort of area. But rather than do that, I'd rather tell a story.
In Pensacola, Florida, my uncle actually owns a septic tank and porta potty company. They're on the outskirts of town, right? They need land to keep all their stuff. You see that in Y&I. My auntie too, she said one of these beaches is just called It's. That's another cool little protected secret zone.
don't sleep on the effectiveness of visual storytelling to deliver truth to your audience. The second way to tell a story without words is to fill the frame. Here's how I do it. By the way, this is kind of a hybrid B-roll. 1, position your agent in the middle of the frame. 2, position yourself to achieve a wide to extra wide shot composition. 3, walk and talk. Use the left and right thirds of the frame to show what the agent is or isn't telling. Use the non-agent parts of the frame to support the story. In these examples, the majority of the frame is not occupied by the talking agent, allowing the audience's eyes to explore the scene while the audience's ears absorb the talking. It's a 2-hit combo. Show and tell. When a talking head fills the frame, the focus is on words and information. When a talking head is part of a larger scene, the scene itself becomes a supporting character to the story. I bet you already made comments in your head about this scene sometime earlier in this video, whether you did it consciously or not. You made a comment to yourself about this scene, or should I say this scene spoke to you, supported the story of me being who I am, the editor, behind the desk, behind the computer, at work. I intentionally showed you a story about myself without having to tell you until just now. The scene matters. Use the non-agent parts of your frame to support the agent's story.
I am for fair housing laws, steering, like anti-red zoning, all that stuff. I'm 100% for it. There's a fine line between that and being an honest representative or advocate, friend, information giver here on the island. A physician may not want to live in the neighborhood where all the construction workers live. And that doesn't mean the physician's a bad person, but it just obviously means a different thing. Likewise, the construction guy may not want to live where all the attorneys live and the HOAs are insane and you can't even park your car in your driveway or whatever. We may tell stories about the west side of our island and say like, hey, on average, you see more flags flying. I know a couple guys that sell fireworks, which is not legal here. They happen to live on this side. I've asked my camera guy, and this is the thing we do too, like I'll talk to him even though I'm really talking to you and we'll do this whole thing. If you were to see a wild boar, so it's a thing they hunt here, and it was in the back of a truck dead, ready to be, harvested or whatever. Like, what neighborhood are you most likely to see that in? I'm cueing him to help me. It's like, oh, you're gonna see it on this side of the island or that side of the island. Stories that speak to the culture. It's more engaging. You're gonna get longer watch time. You're gonna get more connection. You're gonna still come off as authentic without being rude or abrasive. Because remember, people from those communities are gonna see this. People who have made it. Like, we have a client who's worth, 100 million or something plus. He's not anti those communities. Now, he can choose to buy anything he wants cash, but he's not anti-blue collar. In fact, that's his people. He doesn't want to hear me badmouth them. So I just tell stories, and we're jovial and fun and respectful. All right, guys, so if you want more information on YouTube for real estate, you want to know how we do it a little differently, drop us some comments. Let us know what you want to see, what you like, what you don't like, all the things. Boost the algorithm for us so we can get that gas in this tank, see that you're out there watching, and keep making more valuable videos for you.